Here's hoping we never run into any of these folks in a dark alley. Welcome to our channel, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 scariest characters of all time. For this list, we'll be looking at characters from a variety of genres who give us the chills. They can be scary in looks, attitude, or motivation. Number 10. Joker. The Joker is one of the most iconic comic book villains and was created decades ago in 1940. Its design was based on the character Gwynplaine in the 1928 film The Man Who Laughs, who himself is an unsettling sight. The Joker has undergone quite the transformation in the comic realm, from simply jokester to complete psychopath. To say he is Batman's archenemy is somewhat of an understatement. He is completely obsessed with the destruction of the hero's world. Everything he does or lets happen to him is all part of a scheme. For example, he allows himself to be caught in order to enter Arkham Asylum to meet the Dollmaker, who surgically removes his face in order to hang it and announce his rebirth. Number 9. Sadako Yamamura. Remember that little girl who climbs out of the television set in the Ring movies? She actually has quite an elaborate backstory. The gist of it is that she was conceived violently, considered to be a demonic personification, nearly drowned by her birth mother, and eventually actually drowned by her adoptive mother. She has supernatural powers, basically manifested in psychologically affecting those she targets. Her adoptive mother trapped her in a well, in which she drowned after 7 days of struggling to live. She's a young girl with hair covering her face, wearing a white nightgown and climbing out of a well in that creepy stop-motion kind of camera work. All the ingredients for horror casserole. Number 8. Pazuzu. Would anyone like some pea soup? William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist features the demon Pazuzu as its main adversary. Blatty basically adopted the lore of the Assyrian and Babylonian myth in which Pazuzu was considered a king of demons. There are actual statue depictions of the character in existence. For our viewing pleasure, however, we were witness to the possession of Regan MacNeil by the nasty demon, and it is forever imprinted in our nightmares. The film spawned many exorcism horror tropes, such as the head spinning, projectile vomiting, and other such visual delights. The fact that an essentially non-visible demon could do all that to a young girl is scary enough. Number 7. Leatherface. Out of all the famous horror franchise faces, Leatherface is perhaps the most unsettling. He wears a mask of human skin and essentially does the bidding of his sadistic, cannibalistic family. He appears to be somewhat afraid of his siblings and thus commits murder to appease them and get human flesh for their diets and cooking competitions. It would be sad if it wasn't utterly horrifying. Leatherface and Texas Chainsaw Massacre films were heavily influenced by the notorious real-life serial killer Ed Gein, who himself actually wore a mask made of human skin, among other heinous things. Leatherface uses the titular chainsaw to chase down and brutally exterminate his prey, then brings the remains to his sinister family for their sinister activities. Number 6. Pennywise. The second clown on our list, Pennywise of It fame, is spectacularly creepy. In creating the character, author Stephen King asked himself what would terrify children more than anything else, and the answer he came up with for his novel is clowns. He was right. First portrayed by Tim Curry in the 1990s television miniseries and more recently by Bill Skarsgård, the character has become somewhat of an icon where scary clowns are concerned. It has been around for centuries, according to lore, and used to feed off of native tribes. He re-emerges to rain terror every 27 years. More recent incarnation of Pennywise is particularly disconcerting thanks to Mr. Skarsgård's keenest grin, higher-pitched voice, and glowing eyes. Number 5. Jason Voorhees. When one thinks of horror serial killers, the first image that comes to mind is often that of Jason Voorhees. Jason appears as a secondary flashback character in the first Friday the 13th franchise film. Pamela Voorhees' son Jason drowned at the camp, and she blames the negligence of the counselors, thus stalking and killing them in an effort to keep the camp from opening. She is killed, and Jason, somehow still alive and now grown, continues her legacy of defending the campgrounds. He doesn't quite do it in the nicest way, however. The iconic hockey mask came about only in the third film in the franchise, in which Jason takes it off one of his victims and uses it to hide his face. Number 4. Freddy Krueger. Freddy is the literal stuff of nightmares. In his life, he was the Springwood slasher, serial killer of young children. He was caught and burned alive by the mourning parents of his victims. He died, of course. It went on to attack his prey from within their dreams. In Dreamland, Freddy is basically unstoppable and all-powerful. He reigns over the realm of dreams by feeding off of the memories and fears the town's residents retain of his horrible real-life crimes. In life as well as in dreams, he uses a glove laden with knives and blades in order to kill. a device he built himself in his creepy boiler room lair. His face is severely burnt, owing to his aforementioned demise. Number 3. Hannibal Lecter. Dr. Hannibal Lecter is a talented and highly intellectual psychiatrist. We wouldn't recommend his services, however, as he is also an avid cannibal. The double life he leads is reminiscent of Patrick Bateman, as he goes widely undetected by his peers. The thing that makes Lecter such a scary character is his Michelin star chef attention to detail when it comes to cooking his favorite meal. This is very much focused on in the TV adaptation of the character, played to perfection by Mads Mikkelsen. Contrary to the savage cannibals of old, Lecter is, for lack of a better word, a refined cannibal. He has organized recipes, the best of cooking utensils, and the rarest, most palatable ingredients. Number 2. Xenomorph. The aliens from the Alien films are some of the most memorable cinematic characters of all time. The creators of the film's creatures basically aimed for a sexual yet predatory race. The Xenomorphs are motivated by two things: propagation of their own species and extermination of others. The creatures were visually designed by Swiss artist H.R. Geiger, whose own works focus primarily on a strange sort of marriage between the human and the machine. He suffered from night terrors and took his artistic inspiration from the otherworldly beings his mind conjured during these episodes. It definitely adds to the fear factor that these creatures are in essence something that haunted this man in real life. Number 1. Michael Myers. Michael Myers is a deeply disturbed individual. At the age of 6, Myers killed his teenage sister and was placed in an asylum. He escaped 15 years later and went after Laurie Strode and anyone surrounding her. John Carpenter took his inspiration from Michael from a college class trip to an institution. There he observed a young boy around 12 and noted the cold, vacant stare and true darkness in his eyes. Michael is made more disturbing by his white painted mask. It removes any and all emotion from his face and truly shows the coldness of his actions. He is also somewhat superhuman, getting shot several times, set on fire, etc., yet he always comes back.